Hello there. Welcome to Intercept CSA, the podcast, where we break harmful silence with truth, healing, and protection, one conversation at a time. I'm Inifon Samson, your host and guide for this conversation. Thank you for joining me. Today's episode will be a bit different. This is the first episode of a series we're calling the Impact Series. The idea of it is to move beyond statistics and explore the impact of child sexual abuse through real stories. I was going to come on this episode and try to manage the challenge we encountered in recording this, which is that the guest survivor just went silent on it. And this person looked forward to this moment. We had conversations about it and went through some trauma-informed steps, but it didn't show up on recording day. I could have invited someone else or the person I was planning for the next episode, but I felt like this was a classic example or an opportunity. I feel there's no bigger way to show the impact and the real tension survivors live with more than this moment, which is the tension or the internal conflict that says, I want to let everyone know that this happened to me. I want to scream it until the weight on my chest lifts. But then at the same time, on the flip side, I don't want to say anything. And people who have survived child sexual abuse will tell you that. They'll tell you they wished someone would just look at them and know everything that happened. But they were also terrified of what will happen if someone actually did. So what is unfolding here is one of the clearest examples of impact, of what trauma still does even years later, how difficult it is to speak and the cost of finding your voice. I believe one of the cruelest things about surviving child sexual abuse is that it is not like murder. It doesn't take you away forever. It harms you and then hands you back to the world wrapped in fear, shame, and uncertainty. If the abuse happened at a family get-together, you returned home, and even though everything had changed inside, not much changed outwardly. Your age didn't change. You left home an 8-year-old, and in the face of the rest of the world, when they see you again, you're still 8. Maybe even your parents, prince or junior or princess, whatever fun name they call you. If you were a 7-year-old still in primary 2 or 3, you return to school and sit in the midst of everyone, but no one can see how many years the burden of silence has added to you, how you've aged overnight, how it seems like all those science fiction movies where someone gains some power newly and now they can hear everything, even someone's blood flowing. You who used to play in the courtyard and be carefree about this world, suddenly it seems like you can hear everything, see everything. Everyone who is frowning, everyone seems to be looking at you. No one also saw how many years had been stolen from you, because all you did after that was sit on the sidelines and watch childhood slip away from you. You wanted to join the dancing group in school, but you couldn't get out of your head and into your body to be able to move or to smile. And you need expression to dance, so you stayed back. Plus everyone will laugh at you if you tried. Your 2 left feet dancing will be the talk in school. So yeah, I don't know why he didn't show up, but I know that sometimes the loudest impact of child sexual abuse is not about what someone says or their actions. It is not about them drinking themselves to stupor or drug abuse. Sometimes it is about how it is stopping them from saying anything at all. It is what makes a grown person go quiet after promising to show up. It is how their whole life has now been associated with inconsistency. Inconsistency at work, inconsistency in their marriage, inconsistency in relationships, inconsistency everywhere. So today, to begin the series, I want to share with you an excerpt from my book and just talk a little more on the impact of child sexual abuse on people as children and then as adults. I haven't just shared my story here because I find my voice when I'm writing. And I believe that all of us should have the autonomy to choose how we tell our story. We shouldn't have to lose our rights to have that story in the first place and then lose our rights to control how it is framed, used, or when it is given. I also want to use this opportunity or this episode to debunk the idea that you always know someone who is traumatized or has gone through abuse or is suffering. Because there's not one person in my life that can say that. No one person has said since I began to disclose to the people in my circle that they knew. Not one person has said I saw that. Even the signs that were visible at first were misnamed as insolence, as slow, as dull, as adolescence, and different things. So you won't always know or see the impact of child sexual abuse. That's why we have to be people who are vocal about our stance with child sexual abuse and be people who genuinely care for children. For anyone to have seen me, it would have only taken someone who was, first of all, informed about the possibility of abuse occurring, then cared enough to pause and ask me, how are you doing really? Not with the goal to mentor me, teach me, or recruit me for something, but to be sure I was pouring from a full cup. So here's an excerpt from my upcoming memoir. It is from a chapter on the immediate impact of my abuse experience. My body struck a new rhythm. It would not shut down or take full breaths or do anything it used to do. It was as though I forgot how to be normal, how to laugh and forget myself, how to play in a group. My heart was constantly sinking. I thought I was dying. If someone called my name, my throat went dry. Once any of my parents or siblings held the house's attention, my heart overdid its beat. I did not see the weight of my thought force my head into a distorted angle. It was my mother who looked at me and saw the reconstruction I had begun. How can you make up your mind to disfigure yourself like this? Have you seen how bent your neck and mouth look now? Do you want people to laugh at you? She said. And a few people did make fun of me. But against the backdrop of what had happened, my body was of no value. My father used to say that if everyone was asked to bring their problems to a square to swap it with other people's, would see some people's burdens and race off with ours before a mistaken switch happened. I didn't believe him. I wished there was a marketplace for swapping bodies and memories. I would have put mine up and taken a life like the one I had. These words I just read are not unique to me at all. I am describing a slow erosion of the self because that is what abuse can do. I can't even tell you about how any of this started. I just know that once the abuse happened, things started happening to me. It was like someone had gone out and left the door open, and now everything just strolled in. And it didn't just stroll in, it strolled in and met a child who couldn't say anything, who couldn't call anyone to come and help. Because if I called someone, I needed to go over the whole story, and I couldn't even get it out of my belly and into my throat. Even as I record this episode, I've paused and had to start over so many times because somehow each time I found myself whispering. At first I thought this episode is very weighty and maybe it's better that my voice is lower. But I realized it's not just that. I'm still practicing projecting the story beyond the space called me. But I'll stop there because I'm such a crier and I'm grateful that I haven't even cried. And that's another reason I'll be terrible telling my whole story verbally. It's not even that I haven't healed, because I remember a conversation I had with someone, and when I left that place, I just kept asking myself, have you really healed if you're crying so much? But then I realized crying is actually a sign that I have healed, because there was a time in my life where I couldn't feel anything, a time where I was completely numb to it. And in that time, I thought I had healed because I wasn't crying. But that wasn't healing, because the ability to feel pain allows you to react to pain. And if you cease to feel pain, then one day it could overpower you and you will be unaware it was even growing in intensity all that time. Also, it's really the adult version of me weeping for the child I was. each time I tell my story in all of its little bits, I feel like I'm watching it all happen to that little version of me. And it is our loneliness that makes me cry. It is her standing in the middle of people and wondering why can't anyone see. Just watching her is very heartbreaking because the adult version of me is a protector. The adult version of me sees people. Every time I hear someone tell me, you don't miss people, you see people, you can't imagine how proud that makes me feel. Because a lot of people loved me, but they didn't see me. And you can love a child and not see them. When my book is out, in the future, I'll definitely have a conversation with my mom. Because since I told her, it seems every time I talk about the work I'm doing now on child sexual abuse, there's just a question behind her eyes. And the question seems to be, how did I miss it? So definitely one day we'll talk about why I couldn't say anything and why she may have missed me. But today, to begin this impact series, I'm helping you see impact beyond something visible. I believe we all show pain differently. And for many of us, our response is part of our wiring. I've had the privilege of being in active childcare for the last 6 years. I've seen children respond to things, and I've come to a conclusion that parents especially must be very observant of their little children, because there's a lot of information about a child and their unique makeup that is in childhood that will be lost later, and I'll explain. Because as we grow up, we modify ourselves after our environment, and a lot of the parts that were originally us become hidden to us. I said to us because it doesn't go away. Even if it's a child who used to enjoy recharging in quietness, you know, all those children that every now and then they just pull away from their friends and just go and sit down somewhere quietly. Most times those children just enjoy me time. But most of the times, or I don't know if there are many parents who pay attention to that kind of quality, who look at a child and say, oh, I've noticed that, oh, this child recharges in quietness, and they keep it in their pocket and keep it as something to note. Because even if that child grows up and life gets very noisy and they forget that that is something that is to ground them, their bodies will not forget that that is what it needs. But the advantage of being a parent who is actually watching is that when that child needs to go back to that natural inclination or that natural rhythm that life had already given them, you are available to supply information and to help them grow into that and to help them go back into that. Because what's happening for a lot of us is that because we didn't have people who stewarded that season and who watched over us in that season with that level of intentionality, or people who even had that kind of knowledge, we now as adults have to consciously do the inner work of discovering who we are at our core, what recharges us, what strengthens us, what helps us relax, how we play, how we enjoy life, because we are all different. And childhood is our most unfiltered self. As children, we see ourselves in our most raw state. And it is such a time that parents and caregivers must be intense observers, people who pay attention, people who document, people who keep information for us, so that as we go through life and as life says, oh, you're too quiet, why are you at the corner? Why don't you associate with people? And we start to live on people's rhythms, so that at that time we can reconnect with ourselves. When we come back home, when we come back into our safe spaces, someone can tell us, oh, no, it's fine. Someone can reaffirm us. Someone can say, it's fine if you need a break. And when you even know this, when you observe this intentionally, you stop vilifying children who have to live in the middle of a chore to go take some me time or to go relax or to go refresh in a way that you remember that, oh, from childhood, this child has always been like this. This child has always been somebody who needed to step away, someone who needed a little more sleep than everyone else needed it. So all of that is something that I believe would be very helpful. I'm also saying this because as my family shares stories of my childhood and who I was as a child, I realized that that child didn't go anywhere. I grew into an older version of that child, and all my natural inclinations impacted how I process child sexual abuse. My older siblings and my parents say that as a child, I was so full of energy and I didn't used to cry. I would play from morning till night and smile a lot, but not cry. And there's a particular story they like to share. It's a story of me falling off the edge of the stairs and down to the floor. My sister says everyone in the compound, we lived in like an enclosed, everybody, that kind of collective compound, a lot of people in the room or a lot of people in the space. So my sister says that everyone in the compound ran to the site of the incident and froze in their tracks because a child has just fallen off a stairway. That's a lot. The baby walker I was in had capsized and I was upside down. My mother had more or less fainted and woken up already, weeping. When someone could finally break out of their shock and come to turn me over, trying to assess what I had broken or if I was even alive because I was not crying. When the person turned me over, I sat up and, according to the stories, I sat up, began to look at each person and smile. In fact, my sister says I was not just smiling, I was trying to get everyone to laugh. I've been told that story so many times, and before I used to just listen to it and laugh. But one day it hit me differently. It hit me that that child became the adult who was abused and then did everything to look fine. That child became an adult who was very active, still full of energy, trying to change the world, just like that stairs incident. And given what I know now about myself, I know that that numbness is paid with high sensitivity. So I'm sure that even though I was smiling at everybody as a child, that I was definitely in pain. I shared that story to tell you that there's a lot of intentionality, like I said, and presence required to protect children or even truly see and understand the impact of child sexual abuse. Every child is different. Pay attention to your children today. There are some of your children who see cockroaches, hear the rain pouring on the zinc, or hear a loud blast and they just begin to shake. Their chest begins to pound while their siblings are still playing. You don't need a psychology degree. Those are indications of high sensitivity. It means they experience pain in a way that is more visceral or close to heart than the others. It means for them you may notice quickly when something goes wrong. It also means that what goes wrong does not even need to be major in them. What goes wrong does not need to be major in them to cause a deep wound. For the other children who also seem undisturbed by everything, it means you have to seek ways to watch and observe them differently because you cannot wait for signs. The same way they sat for a cockroach to crawl over their legs and didn't flinch, they may not come back with any signs or anything visible you can trace. You need to establish open communication and ask them questions gently. So I'm saying that a lot of factors affect how impactful child sexual abuse is. For many people, because of their personalities, it doesn't become chronic trauma. Children who also receive support consistently after the abuse have fewer experiences from the abuse, especially when they received help immediately. Some children, the abuse combines with many other feelings or events and leads to complex trauma. For example, a stepchild who already felt like nobody loves them and that God has betrayed them by allowing them to be born in their family or allowing their family to separate, whether it's a mother who died or a father who died or a divorce or a separation. Abuse is only going to complicate that feeling in a child who has already felt like life has been dealing them a lot and now someone has touched them. And the impact of the abuse will be more severe because the abuse has come to meet an already broken system. So I hope that we've gotten a lot more information about impact in this particular episode. I knew that this episode was going to be one or two things. Either I ended up crying from start to finish, or I emotionally disconnected and began to sound like someone reading the news. But now I think I handled this well. I peeled back the organizational lens, that collective voice, and brought you into my world today because I believe that vulnerability is a truth. Sometimes we need someone to say something so that we can say me too. because sometimes being the first in line is a way too vulnerable thing to do. So I'm extending an invitation to you. If you feel up to it, if there's a part of you that will find comfort in sharing your story, I want to listen to it. I want to listen to you. And if you listen to everything that I have said and it's not still a comfortable idea for you, I promise you, this is not a project I plan on letting go. I will do my absolute best with every resource I have to make sure that I and the team that is growing daily push this goal of no chance lost at prevention, intervention, and healing until you look out into the world and see the work done and feel just a little bit better. Because I know that you're not just depressed for yourself sometimes, it is also for a sibling you've not been able to save from your stepfather, or for a friend who has also encountered this, or another person somewhere. And I know that there's a part of you that heals when you know someone is safe. There's a part of me that heals when I know that someone is safe too. So if you feel safe to share your story with me, I'll be honored. Men, women, teenagers, if you don't feel safe, I do celebrate you for sitting through this conversation. I hope somewhere in all the things that I've said, you felt seen and safe. No matter what you hear in this Impact series, I just want to say that it won't be as important, and this is to everybody generally now. No matter what you hear in this Impact series, it won't be as important as the decision you make about children and child safety. For next week, maybe a guest will come on, maybe they will not. There's so much to talk about, but I didn't want this episode to be very long. I just felt this was a conversation to sit with. From the reality of the person who said, I want to talk about it, but the moment came and they couldn't show up, to our own stories and to mine, I just wanted us to sit. I have people I could have asked to be on this episode too, but some stories are so tender to me that I don't want them to have to say something if they don't want to. I believe that for so long we've marketed in some way survival stories and told people to speak up. And even though it has helped people understand and make a change, many times it has just served as gist for our friends, for someone else to know that things are happening in this world. And that's not what I'm calling us to. There are not many people who don't know what child sexual abuse does to people. There are just many people who have not made a decision to intercept this. Many of us have seen children pregnant by their fathers. Many of us have had friends who did abortions while they were under 18 because of the fear of the consequences of someone knowing that something had happened to them. I listened to a podcast recently, and a sex education coach was talking about an experience she had in school, personally as a student in school herself, where a girl carried a pregnancy from conception to birth within the hostel, and then gave birth alone and buried the child in the bush. It's just wild on many levels. And many of us know those kinds of stories already. So the Impact series is not about survivors talking as much as it is about the urgency with which we have to act. So I'd love for an urgency to act to be your heart posture throughout this series. I'd love for you to simply as a thought every single time you walk into the series and every single time you click the listen button or click the play button, I want you to think, how quickly and what can I begin to do soon? Not next year, just what can I begin to do soon? Today's call to action is to simply sit with this episode. Don't be in a haste with it. Allow it to fuel you, allow it to inform you, allow it to help you to act in the best interest of children and for the future. And if you listen to this point in the episode, thank you for listening, especially to survivors who felt like they were watching their little selves again. Thank you. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Intercept CSA and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast so you can get notifications and be one of our first listeners. Remember, together we can intercept abuse and protect the children we all care about. Together we can intercept child sexual abuse for the future. Until next week, see you.